that was the first season of Ultimate Fighter came out, and I remember watching it with all my teammates, kind of getting into it. And a kid that wrestled in my conference in college ended up being on there, Josh Koscheck. So, right away I seen some wrestlers do well. I think Diego Sanchez was in the finals. He was a wrestler, and I'm like, these guys are doing well. I think I could give this a shot. I remember we're in the back. I remember this pretty specifically. My coach was like saying, "All right, buddy, you got 2 weeks off. We're getting back to it." I said, "I only need one. I only need 1 week," because now I knew. Now I'm finally at the top of the mountain, and everyone's gunning for me.
Welcome back to another episode of The Burn. I am Ben Newman, and every single week, we're going to bring you stories of athletes, celebrities, entertainers, entrepreneurs, not talking about their results. Some of that comes out, but really talking about that burn, that fire inside of them. Our guest today is a man who has lived that. In his mixed martial arts career, Frankie Edgar has spent more hours, 6.5 hours in the Octagon. That's more than any other fighter to ever walk the face of the earth. And we're talking about the most relentless combat sport there is. And he has reached that pinnacle in his career. UFC 112, capturing the UFC Lightweight Championship of the world in a unanimous decision against BJ Penn. And those things are exciting. We love hearing about the titles. But what gets me fired up about the opportunity to be with Frankie today is for you to hear about his burn, a burn that had him grow up in Toms River, New Jersey, learning how to fight, becoming an unbelievable wrestler, becoming a collegiate wrestler, going on to have this great UFC career. But you know where he's at? He's back in Toms River raising his family because that city meant so much to him. Those are the stories that I love, that passion, that fire, where it all started, and why he's living the way he's living today, staying relentless in everything that he does. So, Frankie Edgar, and one more thing before I turn it over to you. My first year at Alabama, the strength coach was Scott Cochran. And I remember talking to Coach Cochran. And Coach Cochran, we'd get videos together for the guys. He'd be like, "Man, Frankie Edgar's the man. His fights, this dude is relentless. He'll stay in that cage forever." I even think one time he said to me, he's like, "I think this dude will die in the ring before you get him out of that octagon." So, Frankie, I was so excited when Larry Hagner connected us, but man, it is exciting to have you on the Burn. Welcome to the show.
No, yeah, thank you for having me. Excited to be here. You got to tell your friend that he's got a good taste in fighters, so thank you.
You got it. I will make sure to let him know. So let's start here. Growing up in Toms River, New Jersey, right? This passion to become a fighter, right? Training to fight from when you were a little kid. Take us there. Where did the passion really start to be a grappler, to be a fighter?
I was always a scrappy kid, I guess, getting in like little scraps as a kid in the neighborhood with other people. And, I really didn't start wrestling until 7th grade. I did try wrestling in 3rd grade for a little bit. My stepfather kind of showed me a move, broke my collarbone. So that kind of put me out to 7th grade. So, starting wrestling 7th grade, kind of behind the 8 ball. I felt like I was always, climbing up the mountain instead of, being the guy on top of the mountain. So, that definitely, it drew me in, the sport of wrestling, because I knew with hard work, you could see the work you put in, you could see the results quickly, especially starting at 7th grade where I was a little behind. I had to put in a lot of extra time, and doing that early, I could see how putting that extra time in could improve your skills. And I was able to improve pretty quickly.
And then, so you went on and you honed your skills. I mean, your boxing coach is in Toms River, wrestling. And I know you've received training in other places as well, but it seemed like that homebred fighter. Then you go off to college. And then after your collegiate career, which was, nationals every single year, right? So a great collegiate career. You almost immediately went into becoming a professional mixed martial arts fighter. Tell us about that. How did you know, like, man, this burn is bright and I got to do this professionally, but to go to MMA?
Yeah, well, when I finished wrestling in college, I wasn't satisfied. I didn't really achieve the goals that I set for myself. I had a pretty good college career, but some things I didn't get to accomplish that I wanted to. And I still had that burn, like you said, to compete and to still, try to fulfill some goals that I had in mind. And, I knew wrestling to kind of go that path would have been pretty tough, based on, where I was at and everything. And that was the first season of Ultimate Fighter came out. And I remember watching it with all my teammates, kind of get into it. And a kid that wrestled in my conference in college ended up being on there, Josh Koscheck. So, right away, I seen some wrestlers do well. I think Diego Sanchez in the finals, he was a wrestler. And I'm like, these guys are doing well. I think I could give this a shot. I didn't even know I was going to be a Judas professional or anything, but I just knew I could do this to, just guys, I guess, kind of get that competing out of my system. And, I signed up right away. And I think 3 or 4 weeks later, I had my first fight.
All right. So from that first fight to what I mentioned, 6.5 hours in the octagon, more than any other fighter to ever walk the face of the earth. Let's go back to what Coach Cochran said. I think this dude will die in the octagon before. What is it like for you? You're in the middle of battle. Let's say a championship fight. For those that don't know, the championship fight's 5 rounds, 5 minutes. What is it like for you to be in there to that point where you say, I will stay in here, right? Unanimous decision against BJ Penn to get the title. What is it that you're thinking? What is that fire? What's that nasty place that you go to that says, I'm not getting out of this place?
It's just the will that there's to win. That's what it comes down to for me. That's what makes me prepare so much. That's what makes me put it in, put it all on the line and pretty much will fight to the end, or at least till the ref will let me, and, it's probably good that a referee is in there because I may fight till it's all said and done, one day. But wait. Sorry, my daughter's running up to me real quick.
All good. Hey, listen, I mentioned it in the bio. Tell her to say hello because that's what it's all about. I admire that right there.
For sure. She got home from school, but yeah. Just wanted to win and that will that stuck with me. The pride of, and you got to have pride. That's what I always tell, I have young son that wrestlers and I coach young wrestlers and you want to have pride in practice. Make it like someone's always watching you, in practice, you should act like someone's always, like my son, you should only work on, I'm watching you. Make it seem like I'm watching you when I'm not, and that's kind of how the approach you need. And that always pushed me to just, push myself to the limits and achieve the goals that I set for myself.
So, Frankie, I think that's one of the things that most people struggle with. So many people tell you how great they want to be, but then if you and I have a conversation with their action, man, we're reading a totally different story. We're seeing a totally different movie. So what was it for you that when those lights were turned out and there was no UFC headlining fight, there's no I'm defending the title, there's no I'm getting it. What was it for you that caused you to push to do that extra? I call it the unrequired mindset. What was it for you when nobody was watching that caused you to push that much more?
I just knew what results it would bring me. I knew that if I worked when no one was watching or I worked on the days I didn't have to, that I'm going to see results quicker. And if I went like a typical path or maybe a half-assed approach, those results may come, but they may take a little bit longer. I know if I put the time in, the results are going to come quickly.
All right, so let me take you to a place that I call the seduction of success. So many fighters. You've been around some of the best fighters in the world, right? Just spending time at that championship level, certainly athletes from all walks of life, seeing conversations, spending time with some of the greatest athletes in the world. I always have found that the highest performers, they're not seduced by success. So take us to that moment. You win the belt. You're there against BJ Penn, unanimous decision. You get the belt around your waist. Where did your mind go after winning? What was because I say it's that seduction of success, but the highest performers, they still crave more. So what was your mindset after you won that title?
Yeah, after winning the title, I remember we're in the back. I remember this pretty specifically. My coach was saying, "All right, buddy, you got 2 weeks off. We're getting back to it." I said, "I only need one. I only need 1 week," because now I knew I'm finally at the top of the mountain and everyone's gunning for me. So I knew that no rest for the weary. And if if you stay stagnant in this sport, you will be passed by. And I definitely put some pride in the fact that I've, been in the UFC for 14 years. I've been a top 10 fighter in, 3 different weight classes, pretty much my whole time there. And that just shows consistency, because it's just still kind of a new sport, I guess, in terms of other sports. And, it changes quickly and guys get better and better. And, if you don't continue to try to improve, you do get passed by. So you can't have those times off, like no 2 weeks off, maybe a couple here and there, but you got to get back in the grind.
All right, so here's a question I got to ask, because I'm guessing you may do a better job than me. So with my son, even though I do mental training, working with athletes like you, I can't get this kid to listen, right, to get him to work. So what are the lessons? How are you getting your kid? How are you said you're coaching your son, and then we just saw your daughter run up. What are the lessons for those parents out there trying to motivate their kids, right? And I need help here. So bring me something good I can take to my son in the backyard today, because he's a basketball player.
Well, I have 3 children. My oldest, he's maybe a little bit doesn't want to always, not the most motivated and not the most sports driven guy. My middle guy, he's all in. And my daughter, she's still kind of young. But, I just tell my kids, at least in wrestling, because that's what I coach them in. I tell them it's not about winning, because you can't make hang win over kids' head, because that's just too much stress. I say it's not about winning. It's about wanting to win and doing your best to win. And then whatever happens in the end, you did what you're supposed to do to make sure you win. And the lessons that you learn in the process of trying to win and making sure you win are what the value is of sports to me.
I love it. All right, Frankie. So final question here for you. How much is left in the tank, and what will the real legacy of Frankie Edgar be?
I never put a date on anything. I definitely have at least a few more in me. My body's still good, and I'm still pretty motivated. I still enjoy going to the gym, so this is all fun for me. And what was the other part of the question?
What is your legacy going to be? Right,
legacy.
being a champion, more hours in the octagon, but what's the legacy for you? What's the real impact you want to leave behind?
Yeah, I just want to when I fight, people always say I fight with a lot of heart, and that means a lot to me, because I take my craft seriously. I put everything into it. And I go into every fight thinking I'm going to win, and I haven't won every fight, obviously. So, sometimes when you walk away from those fights, they definitely hurt. And, but I wouldn't change it for anything. This is who I am. And the fact that people look at me as a guy that never backed down, or will always stand up to, fight anybody and fight tooth and nail. I don't just go in there to go through to punch in the clock and just say I was there. I go in there to make sure I do it right and give it my all. So, for my kids watching or other kids at home, whatever you do, just make sure you give it your all and just try your best.
The multiple weight classes, being a champion, doing it at this level, what I admire about what you just said is that you didn't win every fight. And I actually, this I want to mention, we have a common friend in Tyron Woodley, one of my closest friends in the world. Actually, a pair of signed gloves right above my head from Tyron. And I know you guys have had some good times together. And, Tyron would tell you that, these last few fights he's had have not been the fights that he wanted to have. But that doesn't make a man a handful of fights that didn't go the way you wanted them to go. And I think it's such a powerful thing for people to hear from you. You haven't won every fight, but you are a champion, dominated at multiple weight classes. You aren't done yet. And I think for everybody, I hope that that's what they can hold on to from what you said, because I think that's so powerful. We live in a world where everybody defines themselves on their results, and results are important, but I always look at the entire body of work. And yes, you've had some losses. You've had some unbelievable wins. You and I both know you have a Hall of Fame career, and it's only a matter of time. Although, hey, you're going to have to stop fighting and stop that ticker on the number of hours in the octagon for them to put you in the Hall of Fame. But I think we both know that that'll happen. But I think that's a pretty powerful lesson.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. We'll see how much more time we could put on that ticker, and we'll take it from there.
Well, Frankie, thank you so much for joining us for The Burn. And to each and every single one of you, I want you to think about where you are right now. Think about where you are on your journey. Think about the individuals that have helped you on your journey. That's one of the things in learning about Frankie's career, starting, as I mentioned, in Tom's River, being back raising his children in Tom's River, never forgetting where he came from and never allowing that burn to go out. Being a champion, as I mentioned, more hours in the Octagon than any fighter, and he's not done yet. So don't be content where you are right now. Maybe things haven't gone your way. Stay in the ring. Continue to fight. Your work isn't done yet. Don't wait on the sidelines. Don't wait outside that Octagon. Make sure that you continue to fight. Make sure that you continue to believe in yourself. And make sure to share this episode with somebody that needs to connect to a fire like Frankie has to help them stay in the ring. Because there are people waiting around to see what happens, and that doesn't get you very far in life. Stay connected to the burn. Stay connected to that drive. Stay connected to our show every single week. And make sure to also, down in the caption, make sure to grab our course for your prize fighter day to lock in on what it takes for you to win one day at a time. Thank you for joining us for The Burn.